All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning for our webinar, Measuring More Parts Faster, Increasing Your Throughput with a 5-Axis System, brought to you by Fox Valley Metrology and Wenzel America. You may be wondering right off the bat, like, what is 5-axis measuring? A standard 3-axis CMM is going to be able to move in your XYZ. 5-axis system incorporates 2 extra angles that work in sync with the rest of your machine. So therefore, you don't have to move your machine out of the way, ratchet to a different angle, move it back in faster, in order to measure your part. So it's going to increase your speed, help you with your accuracies. So that's just a really quick intro into what 5-axis is. We'll kind of get into it. Mariano's going to touch on a ton of things as we go through the presentation today. If you do not know who we are, we have Fox Valley Metrology. We are an ISO 17025 accredited lab. We specialize in calibration. We also specialize in repair and equipment sales. We've been in business for about 25 years. We are headquartered right here in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. We also have a location in Stacy, Minnesota, one in Fenton, Missouri, one in Rockford, Illinois, and we just opened one in Charlotte, North Carolina. If you do not know who I am Josh Weimer, the Director of Capital Equipment Sales here at Fox Valley Metrology. I've been with the company about 11 years, pretty much done everything there is to do here. I started out cleaning gauges back in shipping, receiving. I was a traveling technician for about 8 years. So I traveled all around the country performing calibrations on measuring equipment, torque wrenches, pressure gauges, hand tools, electronics, you name it. I've pretty much done it. The last 3 years or so, I have been on the applications side in our dimensional lab. So I've been performing inspections, the applications engineer here at Fox Valley Metrology, so I help out doing all the setup and calibration and training on our steric vision systems. So I've been working on your side for the last 3 years or so. I use these machines pretty much every day. So kind of as I'm transitioning into the sales role, it kind of helps having that background, knowing how to operate the machines and what I need to do, read blueprints and all that. Wenzel America is going to be pretty much putting this presentation on today. They are the world's largest family-owned metrology company. They've been in business for about 50 years. They are based out of Wiestal, Germany. They're a family-oriented company. You know, it was started by Werner Wenzel, and he handed it down to his daughter and his son. They still run the company today. That kind of resonates with Fox Valley Metrology a lot. We're a very family-based company as well. Going from the owner down, I have 3 family members that work here. So our values, as it comes to Wenzel and Fox Valley Metrology, we mesh really well together. What I love about Wenzel is that they specialize in those highly accurate, versatile machines. They can put one in your lab and have something super accurate. You can put one on your floor with their shop floor measuring systems. So you don't have to move your parts to the machine, to the lab to measure them. You can literally move your machine to the parts, which is extremely convenient. That being said, we are going to go over a little bit of logistics today. There's a Q&A section over on the left-hand side. If you want to type in a couple questions, test it out, let us know what you got planned for the 4th of July. That's cool. We'll kind of be monitoring that as the presentation goes. We'll be able to evaluate any of your questions at the end. This webinar is being recorded. If you happen to have a coworker or a boss that you think this may help them, you want to show them, you'll get an email right at the end that has a link to the webinar. You'll be able to send it off to them or bring them into the office and show them, watch it together. If you have any products that catch your eye, we'll direct you to a page right at the end of the webinar that has more information on Wenzel, has more information on Fox Valley Metrology. It'll also have a little bit of more details on our promotion that we're going to throw to you near the end. That being said, I'm going to bring on Steve Meek and Mariano Mark from Wenzel. So welcome, guys.
Hey, thanks, Josh. And good morning, everyone. My name is Steve Meek. I'm the Midwest Regional Sales Manager with Wenzel. I joined the Wenzel team back in January 2019, and I'm responsible for supporting new machine sales in the Midwest area, Midwest area. As of May 2020, I took on the added responsibility of managing national service sales as well. So I currently handle machine services, calibrations, SMA renewals, retrofits, and that kind of thing too. About me, I currently live in Plymouth, Michigan, which is roughly halfway between Detroit and Ann Arbor areas, or about a 20-minute drive time from our sales and service office in Wixom. Prior to joining Wenzel, I spent a handful of years with a local metrology house in various sales roles, managing calibrations, contract inspections, vision systems, CMMs, retrofits, things of that nature. So I've been in the industry for about 10 years now. And this is actually how I came about meeting the team over at Fox Valley. So I've had the pleasure of working with these guys for quite a while now. Great team, which is actually one of my favorite things about working with Wenzel. Very fortunate to work with a ton of great and talented people, whether it be internal at Wenzel or working closely with our friends at Fox. Everyone is extremely passionate about what they do, and it shows in their work. But that's a little bit about me. At this time, I'd like to introduce you to my colleague, Mariana Marks.
Hey everyone, thank you so very much for joining. I am Mariana Marks, a metrology specialist here at Wenzel America. I started my metrology career in 2013, training classes both on-site and in the office. I've tried every class possible. I think I have over 13 different classes that I've taught throughout my metrology career. I've also done hotline support, assisting with multiple softwares. When I came here to Wenzel America in 2016, I started in gear metrology, and I'm also touched on CT, mobile measuring arms, you name it, the equator. And now I'm just very excited to show you one of our best technologies, the 5-axis Revo system.
Absolutely. I know working with Mariano the last few weeks directly, he is truly an expert in this 5-axis system. I've learned a lot. So hopefully you guys can take something away from this and learn a lot today too. So brief touch on the agenda and everything that we're going to go over today. We're going to show you how this 5-axis system can help you streamline your planning, create a speedy setup, a rapid inspection, faster changeover, process-driven reporting, and then Steve's going to come back and touch on the cost justification and return on investment. So with that being said, I think we are ready to get started. Mariano, if you want to take over.
Yeah, let me go ahead and share my screen here.
There we go. All right. So here we have a little bit of an intro to the Wenzel software. You can kind of see how Quartus is laid out. But Mariano, how can a 5-axis system help you streamline your planning process?
Yeah, so over here, let me show you a little bit about our Quartus software we have set up, demonstrating our shop floor CMM over here. And I have this demo block that we use for a lot of our demos, and it's the quintessential block for 5-axis systems, because as you can see, it's got a bunch of holes and elements on all sides, right? And so we have the Revo 2 here that I'm also simulating. And like you mentioned, for 3-axis systems, right, you have an articulating head in both A and B angles, whereas this Revo 2 head has infinitely indexing angles. So you can choose whatever angle you want, right? So if you want 23.978 degrees in A and 90.258 in B, you got it, right? And so with a traditional 3-axis system, you have to essentially be mindful of every particular angle and approach or intermediate point, right? So you have to think about where you just came from and where you're going to go. And with the 5-axis system, it's a little simpler. So let me go ahead and show you over here. I'm going to just measure this very simple circle. I just left-click once, right-click once, and I'm going to leave the default settings. I'm just going to go ahead and hit start. All right. So you can see immediately the head orients itself and goes to measure my circle. Now I'm a proud owner of this circle. Boom. Really quick measurement. here I just gathered 2,900 points just on this small circle with this stylus, right? So this is as easy as it gets. Yeah, so essentially the controller of the CMM is taking care of you a lot, right? There is less for you to think about when programming, right? This leads to less errors, less crashing and things like that. So let me go ahead and show you one more time with another circle, right? So I'm just going to left click it once, right click once, one more time. You can see immediately the path where it's going to take, right? It's pretty clear. And I actually already had this setting here, right? Very minimal things that you can change here in the ribbon of our software. So I have it set to this focal point. For example, it's this purple point right here, which I'll just go ahead and click start and let it do its thing. You'll see that it's going to move in such a way that it's going to orbit around that purple point. So this is great for if you want to get an undercut or something like that, right? You don't have to change your probes or anything, right? So this allows you to approach things much more quickly, right? So all of this rigorous planning is streamlined with the 5-axis and our Corda software.
That's awesome. That's, I guess my next question goes back to what happens when the part is moved a little bit. So you had said it needs to be at 92.5 degrees or whatever. What happens if it's at 94 or your part just isn't lined up perfectly? How does the 5-axis system help you accommodate those little bit of imperfections?
Yeah, so actually very little at all, right? So what I have here is that very same block, and what I did is I just tilted it a little bit, right, from our magnetic fixture that we have here. So to simulate an operator that perhaps sets the part up a little skewed, right? Not purposely, but it happens, right? So after the operator manually aligns it, right, finds the part, right? CMM has its eyes closed, as I like to say, right? After you have that, I'll go ahead and go to the measurement part. You'll see that the Revo head is just going to measure your part still the same, right? Because the controller takes care of you, right? So I had to do no inputting or changing of any angles in the software, right? The A and B angles adjust automatically to optimally measure all of your elements, right? So these are called Euler angles, and it's makes your measuring that much quicker, right? You don't have to worry about these types of things.
Sure, sure. I know we have a Wenzel with a PH20 here, and this has helped us out so much. Traditional CMMs with a 3-axis system, you have to move it away, and if your part is not perfectly lined up, you don't have that probe that's going to be able to get in there perfectly. So if you don't have the right angle probe, you're going to get some errors on your part. So having this, being able to have infinite angles and move according to how your part is aligned is going to save you time. It's going to save you errors. It's extremely, extremely helpful and beneficial to just being able to have that at one touch. So can you explain to us how a 5-axis probing system is going to help increase your throughput?
Yeah, so essentially, you can see that this Revo system is going to be able to measure more parts faster with more data, right? So this is going to be a time savings for you guys, which equals a dollar savings, right? Which is what Steve is going to bring this point home a little later. But essentially, all of this more data equals a better analysis, right, and a better picture of the quality of your parts. Yeah. So a little bit about how the Revo takes care of this. There's actually a laser inside of this head over here that goes down the extension of this carbon fiber extension that you see here, and from the bending of the stylus, it's going to be able to determine with a little mirror in there and gather points very, very quickly. Right, so maximum of 4,000 points per second inside of the head There's in the A and B angles, there's encoders. So I like to say there's a little CMM in there for you that does all of this work, right? And so with this technology, it's able to do all of these moves and do 5-axis sweep scanning as well, as you will see. So you can sweep scan your planes, your cylinders, and your freeform surfaces, right? And then all of this effectively increases the size of your CMM, right? So I'm able to fit a larger part into the CMM because, like we said, with a traditional 3-axis system, you have to be mindful of moving away, rotating, going down, and then going into the part. Whereas what I love about the 5-axis system, you can swoop into your part, right? So as it's going down in Z, it can go inside of your bores and other elements to be able to inspect them. All right, so we're actually actively working on speed comparison with this very part between the Revo and the SP25 system, and we expect a time difference in inspection of around 3 times, so pretty significant.
Yeah, absolutely. You, speed is money. The more parts you can get in and inspect in a quicker amount of time, the more parts you can get on. It's self-explanatory. I mean, the more money that you can save, it's going to make your machine that much worth it. So can you explain to us how a 5-axis system can help you do more with less?
Yeah, so as you can see, the Revo is for throughput, right? So one great example is that for all of those infinitely indexing angles, I don't need to qualify each individual angle. So with one calibration procedure for this stylus, I am ready to just rock and roll and use any of those angles. So you can also, with this RSP2 5-axis system, and RSP3, you can measure with extensions up to 800 millimeters long. So you don't have to worry about not being able to reach into your part. These are massive light probes that the Revo is able to handle. Another thing that you're able to do with the Revo 2 system and Revo 1 systems is add a roughness probe on here. So we also were able to measure here on the front face of our block with the roughness probe. So if all your stylite changes, what you might do from one stylus is to the roughness probe, or even a camera system to on the head of the Revo 2. So this means that you essentially don't have to take your part to another machine, right? Waste time doing that with somebody, and then have a second report, right? The idea here is that you have one machine, one sensor, and one solution for your inspection department.
That's awesome. Like you said, not having to move your part, take it to somewhere else to take measurements, that you can have everything all in one spot. Looks nice to the customer, really helps you your inspection process. So you've explained how you can get all this data. So we've scanned things super fast. We've gotten all this data. What do we do with it now?
Yeah, so essentially, let me go ahead and show you here in Quartus. I have this sample measurement database, which I think is really awesome and really neat, where I can show you, right, with the speed of the Revo and softwares like Quartus, we can capture every single run, right, and analyze these inspections with SPC, statistical process control, right? So this is going to tell us a story about our production process, right? Am I over tightening a 3-jaw chuck? Was there a tool change or something like that, right? So what I have here is a workpiece. It has no programs or no CAD or anything like that. This is just to demonstrate these 305 runs, which I'm not sure if the data is real or not, but I love that we can showcase that story of your part, like we said, right? So you can see here for each of the features or characteristics, right? I have an angle here, a diameter, another diameter, maybe a flatness. For all of these 305 runs, it shows me the history, right? And so from here, I'm able to take these trend diagrams and histograms, put them on a report. I have the data page where I'm able to do process capability studies, machine capability studies. I'm able to filter these runs so I can see the last 3, the ones that were all done only last month, the ones that Jimmy did, right? So all of these errors you're able to catch, right? Because the data, the Revo gives you this data, right? So this could maybe save you days or weeks of chasing your tail, right? Where the failures in your parts are coming from.
Sure. It looks pretty. Having this SPC data, all built into the software, that means that you don't have to necessarily pay for a secondary SPC software.
Yeah, why wouldn't you want to see the results that are coming from your part, right?
Customers love to see graphs, and they love to see, diagrams, and they love to see charts. Being able to put all of that in with the thousands and thousands of points of data that you can get speaks volumes to how powerful the software is and how powerful that this Revo 5-axis head is. So if there are any other questions, feel free to type them in. I'm going to kind of pitch it back to Steve here for some return on investment stuff. So if there are any other questions, feel free to type them in. Otherwise, I am going to pitch it back to Steve.
All right. Thanks, guys. Well done. So we just learned about some advantages of the 5-axis system, but I want to spend about the next 5 minutes or so looking at what does all of this mean for you from a numbers perspective? How does this impact your P&L? Why is 5-axis measurement important for your team and, more importantly, your customers, right? So apologies in advance. I realize this slide we're looking at here is a little bit busy, but try not to worry about reading through all of the bullets independently. I'll cover the important stuff for us. But ultimately, this section is just a piece of our cost justification sheet. This is a real life example of a longtime Wenzel customer who just purchased their 4th machine, their 2nd machine with Revo. So what we're looking at is an apples to apples comparison of the same exact part being measured on 2 different measuring platforms, one with the 3-axis PH10 SV25 and the other with the 5-axis Revo, like Mariano was showing us earlier.
Excuse me, guys, I'm so sorry to interrupt. I wanted to make sure that the slide is being showed okay. Is everybody able to see it? Yes. Maybe it's just my end. I apologize.
No, that's okay. I'd rather be safe than sorry. Cannot see the slide, please let us know. That way we can pull this up. But I'm going to go through some data for you. Even if you can't, we'll still get the message across. But before I get too far into it, I want to preface this by saying this is by no means an attack or a knock on the PH10 SV25 probing system. This is still an excellent probe combination and absolutely has a place in the market. We still sell this actively to many, many customers. But what I do want to highlight here is the potential to create capacity, to become more efficient, and to reduce costing in your day-to-day inspection process. And this is by far my favorite piece of the pie. I get real excited to share this info with our customers because it takes like the overly traditional salesy part out of the equation and just focuses on raw data, raw results, which I realize is probably ironic coming from a longtime sales guy. But with that said, let's get into it. So the part we're showcasing here in this example is not overly intricate, but does have about 85 to 90 features. And it's historically taken this customer 15 minutes to measure this part with their 3-axis system. Doing some simple math that gives us ability to measure 4 parts an hour, 32 parts over an 8-hour shift, and assuming we're just running 1 shift per day, it's 160 parts over the course of a week. And that's just dedicated to measuring 1 specific part. Now let's pan over and take a peek at this part being measured with the Revo system. We're able to reduce the cycle time to 6 minutes. It's a 60% reduction, which is by no means an unusual result for us to see. Following the same math, right, that now gives the customer the ability to measure 10 parts every hour, 80 parts per shift, and 400 parts per week. So you can see that's a huge gain, huge efficiency gain. So let's just keep it going. I'll plug in some numbers here. I like to use $20 an hour as an operator cost just because it's a nice round number for us. So you'll see that used in our example here, but that brings our cost per part measured with the 3-axis system to $5 a part, where the Revo system is $2 a part. right? That's a $3 impact on every single part you're measuring. So again, some more simple math here. Sales guy like to keep it simple. I've extrapolated this to 100 parts and 1,000 parts just as a reference, but let's take a look at what this means if you're measuring just 1,000 parts. It's over 3,000, or I'm sorry, that's $3,000 on the nose and 150 labor hours difference for every 1,000 parts. It's over 4 weeks of time saved by just using different technology on your CMM. So what happens if you're working more than one shift a day? Or what happens if you're measuring 50,000 parts in a year, or even 100,000 parts in a year, which is not uncommon? The machine and the technology pays itself off very, very quickly. And I would argue that right now, with everything that's happened over the last, 18 months, 2 years time, quick ROI is more important than ever, right? So this is very exciting stuff.
Absolutely. It's one of those things that I never really even thought about as it comes to how much money you could possibly save just by cutting some cycle time down. Time is money. You can see the numbers are speaking right here that a 5-axis system is going to help you measure more parts faster.
Yes.
It's going to increase your throughput. What the numbers can't lie. It's a great example of how it's going to help you out. So Steve, thank you very much for showing this. Mariano, thank you very much. If you guys don't, make sure you guys follow Fox Valley Metrology and Wenzel on all sorts of social media, LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter. Mariano does tech tips on Wenzel's social media every Tuesday. They're awesome. I look forward to them. This week was about cleaning your scales on your CMM, which is stuff that I don't really even think about. So the tech tips are super helpful. So thank you guys both. We really do appreciate it. I'm going to check into the Q&A. I don't see anything really popping up as it comes to questions. Last chance if you guys want to ask anything. Otherwise, I do have a couple extra questions for you, Mariano. So with how fast that this machine is moving around and scanning and taking points, how does the machine actually hold its accuracy throughout the entire measurement?
Yeah, so I would say it's kind of two things, right? So number one, the Wenzel frames being the best out there, they are the greatest frame to be able to unlock all of the potential of the Revo, the maximum velocity, maximum acceleration, right? The bridge itself, right? We have, for example, another metrology industry leader for the air gap in their bearings is around 6 microns. Ours is 2 microns, right? Stiffer machine is able to handle the Revo 2, which is the Revo system, excuse me. So it's the other thing is that you saw the A and B angles moving simultaneously in the program and the videos. This means that a lot of the time it's the head doing the work for you, right? So by the head doing a lot of the work and the 3 axes of the CMMs being stationary, this means that you are able to measure faster, measure more accurately, right? And this means that your CMM isn't moving, meaning that it's going to last longer as well. So it's even when you're doing your swoop scans or helical scans, there's minimal movement. So it's all around efficient and all around a great solution.
Yeah, absolutely. Steve, why don't we jump back into you? Did I cut you off for a second there?
No worries. That's okay. There's more to share, but if we need to move on to questions, we can move on to questions. If you like to have a couple more minutes on this, we have some info to share, but
yeah, we can jump back into some questions. There are a couple of questions that did just pop up.
Beautiful. If you have the cost justification slide back up, we can kind of jump right into it. We'll just have some more data on there for them to be able to reference.
Yep, the cost justification data is still up. So why don't you go ahead and touch back on that?
Beautiful. Thank you. So another thing we could highlight here, since we have a little bit of time, is keeping in mind that the data that we've talked about here, it only focuses on really your inspection cycle time. We haven't considered anything here for the time savings gained in your probe calibration process, which is often dramatically reduced by 50% or larger, or on the programming side, which is usually about another 25% time savings for your operator when he's getting ready to program these parts and things. So, so just one little bullet there, like circling back to what all this actually means to you, right? For your P&L and for your customers. It means that suddenly we've now created a ton of time for your operators to focus on other activities, right? If we've freed up 150 hours or 4 weeks-ish of work for Mariano's Jimmy, the operator, to focus on other activities and move on to the next job, that's huge, right? It means there's margin dollars currently built into your parts and your manufacturing process that we can now get our hands on. We can now grab that money. You can use that margin dollars to be more profitable, right? Or to issue more competitive bids, or just reinvest in your company, right? Another perk, like you can quote quicker turnaround times for your customer. What happens when you can shave thousands of dollars or weeks potentially off of your proposals, right? So this is all very exciting stuff, and that's why we're all very passionate about it. You'll see us talking about hashtagging more parts faster, and this is exactly what we mean. That's kind of the story behind it, right? There's no hiding from the numbers, and that's the best part. Your results are what they are. Everything is cut and dry, and it's easily quantifiable. So that was really the last kind of tidbit that I wanted to add to that, Josh. You can kick it back with the questions, but kind of as a part of this, Josh will highlight later. But if this interests you and you like seeing this data and you want to know what it could mean for you, please reach out. We'd love to sit with you, figure out where you guys are now, do an in-depth analysis, and kind of maybe figure out what we could do with some different technology. And that's a free consultation. It's a low stress, simple, easy process. And if it makes sense, it makes sense. And if it doesn't, then we know, but at least you know. So yeah, that was all I had to add. Thanks, Josh. Thanks for coming back.
Yeah. And that's kind of going back to like the promo that we're throwing at these attendees, right? Like that's something that you guys are willing to sit down with them and work with free of charge, correct?
Absolutely. Yep. We'll do a free consultation for you. Again, no cost, no obligations. We're not going to bog you down. I'm not going to pester you with a bunch of follow-ups and stuff too. I understand that's the traditional thought behind sales guy stuff, but we try to be real people too. So feel free to reach out. It won't be an annoyance. It could be a very educational and enlightening experience to find out where we could potentially go with just some new technology.
Absolutely. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate it.
Sure.
One of the questions that popped up in the Q&A here says, how about the programming time? So Mariano, can you touch on the difference in a programming time as it comes to a 5-axis system and a traditional machine?
Yeah, so I would say that once you get used to this new 5-axis paradigm, where you're getting used to these moves and kind of how the head works, after you get rolling with your program, I would say that in the end there are definitely going to be less lines in your program because, like we mentioned, you don't have to, with the traditional 3-axis system that I also program, you have to go move here, orient, go down, go in, right? So all of these in-betweens kind of get rolled into these automatic moves like you saw on this program. So there are going to be a reduction, I would say, in because of the moves of the CMM and the strategies of when it's measuring as well with the 5-axis system.
Sure, that makes sense. Programming time is money too. You know, all those guys that are sitting there, you know, physically programming the machine to be able to run automatically. Those guys are making money. So the quicker that you can get them in and out and programming quicker, that's going to save you, going back to Steve's, cost justification, that saves you money just by being able to cut down anytime that you can. You touched on being able to do optics. You touched on being able to do roughness measurements. Is there a probe changeover that happens with that on a 5-axis system?
Yeah, this can all be built into the rack, all automated. So in theory, you have the push one button, start your program, and at the end you get a report where you have all of your measurements, right? Tactile first, takes care of your things. Pick up your camera, you got some backlighting, get some shots real quick of your bores, and then close it up with roughness, and it's all part of your system, all part of the CMM.
And that can all be reported together, correct?
Yes, sir. Yep.
That's awesome. Last question that I see that popped up on the Q&A says, what kind of support can you expect if purchasing a Wenzel CMM? Are there any other words of why would you purchase a Wenzel over, another company?
I was gonna add my first thoughts on this, and then Steve, you can add everything else that I missed. Like you always save me. But no, what I was gonna say is our support hotline right now. If you call in, we have a multitude of our application engineers, myself included, that pick up the phone, ready to assist you. Or if you leave a voicemail, it goes into our email support inbox, or you can email us directly. Nevertheless, that's going to ensure the fastest response time. And I'm on a texting basis with some of my customers. So, hey, I need help really quick. I've also been able to troubleshooting some service things. So I've gotten to get my foot into the service world, which is really awesome to tie in both the apps and service side. I've been able to like FaceTime with customers. So, and then on top of that, like I show on these machines that I have here in front of me, look, this is what you're looking for. Here's your air regulator. Here's your belts. Right here's how you take off the cover. So we assist with all of that. So we love that flexibility. We want to make it successful. That's kind of my bits about our support right now. I don't know if Steve, you wanted to add anything else to that?
I think you pretty much nailed it down, right? Two big points that I always kind of like to focus on is what kind of support, right? Mariano kind of mentioned it, right? Just like Fox, we're a family-oriented business. Our values kind of align very well with Fox's in the sense that when you call, you're not getting, hundreds of people on the hotline who don't understand your problems. You got to go through everything new. You get familiar names with familiar faces who are very familiar with your challenges and things that are going on. So everything's relatable and personable. That's one kind of pro of working with Wenzel. The other thing is flexibility, right? Another word that you use, Mariano, well done there. I can't drive that home enough. Flexibility is a big piece of Wenzel, whether it be from our equipment in their offerings, our measuring solutions, from flexible probing options, flexible software, to the service side too, where unlike some other folks kind of in the industry, Wenzel's not going to tie you down and say, hey, you have to use us for calibration, for service. There are other people, much like Fox Valley, right? So Fox Valley can come in and take care of you guys, get you guys where you need to be. That's just part of our process and how we go to market. So if you have any further questions or want to talk about this kind of thing in more detail, we'd love to reach out to you. Hopefully that answers your question, but feel free to connect after this if we can get in more depth.
Sure. You can see on the slide, I have Steve and Mariano's contact information on there. You can feel free to reach out to them. If you have any questions, if you have any other concerns, you want to talk some more about Wenzel products, you can feel free to reach out to them. You can also reach out to me directly. There's my contact information. Other than that, I just wanted to kind of thank everybody. We're running a little bit early. We'll give you some time back. Hopefully you guys learned something about this 5-axis system and you can benefit from it. Reminder that we will have a link that goes out to you with this webinar if you need to show anybody else. You're going to get redirected to a page with some more information. We do these pretty much once a month, these webinars. So hopefully you can stay tuned for future webinars. I know we have one coming up on Mitutoyo hand tools. We have one with Starrett non-contact measurements coming up. We also have an open house coming up July 28th. If you guys are interested in seeing a Wenzel machine in person, we have one here at the lab. We have the president of Wenzel America coming to be a keynote speaker. So Drew Sheminsky will be here. Answering all your questions is a great opportunity to meet Steve Meek, meet myself. We'll give you lunch. There's an air show. We're pretty much right on the airport grounds. So be on the lookout in your emails for the registration for that. You can also go to the website and sign up. Other than that, if anybody has any other questions, feel free to reach out to me directly. You can reach out to any of your other Fox Valley sales reps or customer service reps. They'll be able to get you in touch with the correct person. So thank you guys again. Hopefully you learned something, and we will be in touch soon. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All. Appreciate it.